Oh my gosh, the best piece of advice, don't take life so seriously. Always laugh. That was from my grandma, my Mima.
Today, I am so thrilled to have Tami Butcher as my guest. She is an amazing lady, and I have to tell you one story before we get started. It's the first time I ever met Tami, and it is hilarious. And it was so funny because I'm just probably like 16 at this point, and I meet Tami, and I go up to her, and she's like, the first thing she says to me, she's like, "Wow, you got good boobs," and I'm like, I just die because nobody has ever said that to me. And it was such a funny way to meet Tami. But ever since then, she has been a really big mentor to me. And I actually met her through Origami Owl, the jewelry company that I have been selling with, now named Thank Goodness. So it has expanded and grown. And I'm sure we're going to talk about how Origami Owl played in your life. But that is where I met Tami. And that was the first interaction I ever had with Tami. So funny. As a little girl, I was just like, oh, as a young adult, young teenager, I was like, oh my gosh, this lady is crazy. And I remember just following her on social media, and it was so amazing because she's just so herself and not afraid to be it. And so it's very, very inspiring. So welcome, Tami.
Oh, Selena, thank you. I totally remember that. And, you do have amazing boobs. And so I just kind of said it how it was. And I just want to say that I have known Selena now, gosh, how long have we known each other now? Maybe like 6 or 7 years at least.
Yeah.
And I have watched you grow into this amazing young woman. And a lot of us talk about it. A lot of us who were in Origami Owl in the beginning, who watched you kind of grow, we've just been talking recently about how proud we are of you and this podcast and you living your dream and doing it all. So
thank you.
I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy you asked me.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. That means so much to me. And yeah, we have known each other for a while, and it's been really exciting that you guys have kind of been able to see my journey as well as I've been able to be a part of your guys' journey as well. So why don't we get started? And the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is introduce yourself. Tell us anything you feel is important that we need to know about you.
Okay, well, my name is Tami Butcher. I am living right here in sunny Arizona, where I grew up. I am a I have 4 sisters in my family. We have a super big family. My family's in the restaurant business. We have 2 restaurants here in Arizona that have liquor license number 1 and liquor license number 2, which means they're the oldest restaurants here in Arizona, which we take a lot of pride in. Mm-hmm. I met Selena because just as I was kind of doing the restaurant business and looking for something else to do, I happened to live across the street from little Bella Weems, who founded Origami Owl. And her mom came across the street and said, "Hey, we are starting this locket company. And would you and Maddie, my daughter, who was 14 also at the time, said, sure, why not? What's this all about? If you guys are doing it, we are in." And fast forward 10 years later, of course, Bella is a young woman. My daughters have grown up to be young women. They were both part of the Origami Owl Young Entrepreneurs, along with Selena. And now we have just transitioned and relaunched and rebranded into a company called Thank Goodness. And I'm a presidential purpose partner with Thank Goodness, which is the highest rank that you can get. And I feel it's quite an honor that I have earned that. I think it took a lot of time and a lot of hard work, but it is a journey that has been incredible for me. Mm-hmm. I've met so many amazing people, and now, thank goodness, we still have the same global mission, which is to be a force for good, as you know, Selena. And so that's kind of always been the mission of Thank Goodness and Origami Owl, is to be a global force for good. So when we rebranded and relaunched, now we can take that just a little bit further. Mm-hmm. I am married. I have a husband named Mike. I have 3 children, 2 girls, Maddie, Tatum, and Brooks. My son, who's 17, he's still in high school. We're soon to be empty nesters, which is kind of exciting. But I am just living my best life. This last year, I would say one of the most important things that I've ever done in my life is that I became a kidney donor for my cousin Brad, who was diagnosed with stage 5 kidney failure. So he was going down quickly.
Mhm.
Our family reached out to just about everybody in our family, and we all applied to be the donor. And it came down, and I became the perfect match for him. So during COVID, he and I went through a transplant together, and now he has my left kidney, and he is doing so amazingly well now. It took a long time. It took about 8 months for my kidney to start working for him, but now he's thriving. And actually, next month is starting tomorrow is National Kidney Awareness Month. And he and I are going to be the ambassadors for the National Kidney Foundation, which I'm super excited about. So I have quite a lot going on in my life. I'm super busy, but I love it. Selena, if you want anything done, you ask a busy person. That's the way life works. And so I really enjoy being busy. And that's just kind of who I am in a nutshell.
That's awesome. There's so much in there that I'm so excited to dive into and talk a little bit more about. But let's start where you were raised and born, and tell me a little bit about what your childhood was like.
Oh my gosh, I had an amazing childhood. I was raised right here in Arizona. My mom and dad got divorced when I was 11 years old, but I also like to say that I wasn't a typical child, and neither were my sisters, of divorce, because my parents got along amazingly well. They both got remarried and have both been remarried 38 years and 36 years. So a long time. And I actually wrote a book about my childhood called My Bonus Mom, because I had sort of a different childhood. My bonus mom, which was my stepmom, we never called her my stepmom. We called her our bonus mom. And then our stepdad, we never called him our stepdad. We called him our bonus dad. So I did write a book about that because I didn't really like it's kind of like that evil stepmother Cinderella sort of feeling that a lot of people have. And a lot of people do have bad divorces. But I love to show that there are a lot of families that have an amazing childhood with their stepmom or their stepdad. And so I wrote the book about our family. And I grew up right here in Arizona, 3 younger sisters. We all went to the University of Arizona or NAU, which is another university here in Arizona. We've all eventually worked in the family restaurant business, and we stay right here in town locally. There's now 11 grandchildren. And believe it or not, my sisters all live in the same cul-de-sac. And they beg me to come move into that cul-de-sac, which I call the compound. And my husband says, no, we're not going to do that. But it is pretty amazing how close knit my sisters and I and our whole family is. We really pride ourselves on that, we do most everything together, and we're very, very close. And so I just had a wonderful childhood growing up. Both sets of parents were amazing. And like I said, we did everything together. My mom, my dad, my stepmom, my stepdad. And it was a very great childhood that I had growing up.
That sounds so awesome. And why do you think your family is so close?
Well, I think it's because my parents, my mom and my bonus dad and my dad and my bonus mom, kind of put their egos aside and said, this is about the kids. And when we're not fighting and we're not disagreeing, then we can all, everything will be so much better. It's so hard to do. I think about to myself, if I were to divorce, I've been married 25 years now to my husband, Mike. We just had our 25th wedding anniversary this year.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. I know it's a pretty big feat.
Yeah.
If I were to get divorced from my husband, would I be able to be as open-minded, as kind as my parents were? You know what I mean? Like, would I be able to put my ego aside and, love the other person that my ex-husband married? I
Mhm.
don't know. I just feel like our growing up, my parents were very, very, we always had to work for whatever we wanted. We
Mhm.
weren't handed things. They showed us a very strong sense of work ethic. And I think that really kind of helps guide you to how you have your kids, how you raise your kids now. And so I was just very lucky. They always wanted the best for us. They kept us motivated to be the best that we could, even though we were all girls. My dad had four girls. You know, he taught us how to change a tire. I was backing up a boat and driving a boat and hauling a trailer before I could actually even drive. Um, he taught us to do the things that men would do. Um, we all played softball and volleyball and basketball. We weren't cheerleaders. We kind of grew up tomboys.
Mhm.
And so I don't know. I think it just worked a super strong connection with our whole family.
That's so positive. I love hearing that because, like, the bonus, when I saw that you were creating a bonus mom or bonus dad book, what is it called again?
My bonus mom.
My bonus mom. I
Yep.
thought that was so awesome because I was like, that is so positive. Because you're right, there's a lot of negative stories where it's like the evil stepmom or the bad stepmom, where those have to actually happen. But you're shining light on the good, that there's
That's right.
actually a good mom. So what is that book all about?
This book is actually just the story of my dad
Mhm.
and my bonus mom. It actually takes you through my feelings as a daughter whose mom and dad is going through a divorce, and it takes you kind of through the pain that you're feeling at first. And I'll just read a couple of, it's kind of in a poetic
Yeah.
form, so it's real easy to read, but you can get the idea. It starts off, almost 11, I remember it well. What seemed a sad story turned out really swell. I felt kind of angry. I felt really sad. What was the trouble with mom and with dad? And it kind of just takes you through. One night in my bedroom, they set us girls down and talked about something that made us all frown. Daddy was leaving. He got a new house. I sat there and listened, quiet as a mouse. Did we do something bad that made them both mad? Absolutely not, said my mom and my dad. And then it kind of just goes on to say, it's not our fault when your family gets divorced. It's never the children's fault. And
Mhm.
so this book kind of takes you through and says, it's not about the kids. And if the parents can be civil about it,
Mhm.
you can go on and have a very positive divorce. And things can be better than what they seem sometimes.
Yeah. And as a young girl, what were some of those hard feelings you had to go through? Because I assume, like you said in your book, you definitely felt like it could have been you.
Yes. And I was 11. Imagine, like, Selena, what you were doing when you were 11. Like,
Mhm.
it's an age where, you're worried about what other people think. You're worried about how you look. You're getting pimples on your face. You're starting to go through puberty. You're feeling already those hormonal emotions that girls feel. And so for me, I was feeling all of that, and my parents were getting a divorce. So I think, had my parents not looked at it the way that they did, meaning they were going to set their egos aside and make us as girls feel confident and okay,
Mhm.
that some parents just don't have to be together because it's better for them, it's better for the family, it's better for all those involved. And so there was a lot of emotions, and I'm not saying that it was easy by
Mhm.
any means. I'm just saying that they made it better for us by taking the higher road.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us. It's very inspiring to hear the good, which I love to hear. And so, growing up, you had lots of sisters around you. Where were you? Were you the youngest? Were you the oldest?
I am the oldest. I
Uh,
am the oldest of four girls. Um, and my mom, believe it or not, had three girls under three. So she was 21 years old and
wow.
had a 3-year-old. a 2-year-old, and a 9-month-old.
Wow.
Imagine that. Imagine you right now,
I
almost
can't.
having 3 little ones.
Yeah.
So our lives started out pretty crazy, but because we were all so close in age, then my youngest sister came later. Um, but because we were so close in age, I think that's what made us so close. We just did everything together. We did all the things that sisters do. And then when we got into the restaurant business, we all worked together too.
Mm.
So everything was all about, being together and doing all the things. But yes, I am the oldest, the smartest, the prettiest, the funniest.
Well, being the oldest, I'm wondering if you had any pressures. Did you feel like you had to be a certain way? Did you feel like you had to lead the path for your siblings?
Sometimes I did. I felt like, since I was the oldest, I did feel a little bit of pressure, just as I feel like any oldest sibling would, where you
Mhm.
want to make a good example for your your younger siblings. You want to be a good example. You want to do the right thing. You want to, um, have yourself, whatever you're doing, reflect well, and that your siblings would follow in your footsteps. That's where that saying goes. So yeah, I did feel a little bit of that pressure at times.
And it wasn't too much that you couldn't handle it, but
That's right.
okay,
No.
good. That's good to hear. And
Yeah.
so you said that you guys got into the restaurant business. Was your parents in the restaurant business?
Yes. My bonus dad, Ken, there's 3 hotels here, and you might have stayed at a couple, Selena. The Arizona Grand, and the Point at South Mountain, the Point at Squaw Peak, and the Point at Tapatio Cliffs. Which, were you there for Bella's birthday when she got the Jeep?
No, that
Okay.
was too soon.
Okay, so but we've had a couple of our conventions there with Origami Owl. But my dad, Ken, built those resorts.
Wow.
And so and he was the director of food and beverage. So when the Point Resort sold to the Hilton, you've heard that big name,
Yeah.
Hilton Hotels, my family purchased the restaurants from the Hilton Resort. And
Oh.
so that's how we were all working there anyways. I mean, we were busing and serving and hostessing and doing all the things. So we just took them over, and then that's how that kind of happened. And
And did you start working when you were in high school?
yeah, I was working at Enchiladas. Um, that was my first job when I was 15, hostessing tables. Then I worked at the resort around the poolside as cocktail waitressing. Then I worked at Rustler's Roost. So I did all the things in all the restaurants. So it's a fun job. It's a fun business. It's a business that kind of gets in your blood, and you
Mhm.
never can, kind of get rid of it. And even to this day, it really makes you think about, especially during COVID, because COVID was so hard
Mhm.
on restaurants. It was so hard on our family and for the restaurants. We were all working there for free during COVID, just to pay the bills, just to help some of the employees. My husband came in, he's a big pizza cooker. He came in and cooked pizzas, and we served to go food. But man, it was a rough time to be in the restaurant business during COVID, that's for sure.
Mhm. What would you say the greatest challenge was?
During that time, or just in general?
Well, you can answer both, but
Okay.
probably first just during COVID.
I would say during COVID, because we had to lay off, furlough, um, hundreds of employees.
Wow.
And, that some of the employees had worked at our restaurants for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years.
Wow.
That was their only means of employment. That was their only means to pay their car payment. Um, so I would say for the restaurant during those times, that was the darkest and most difficult times, to
Mhm.
have to lay people off who their sole income came from the tables that they served at
Yeah.
the restaurant. So that was very hard.
Yeah, that would be challenging because you just feel so guilty, but there's no other option at that point.
That's right. That's right.
And what would you say the greatest challenge in general is in the
In
restaurant?
general, for the restaurant business, well, I'm not there full time anymore, so I don't have to deal with the challenges. But my sister and I were just talking about this morning. After COVID lifted, the restrictions, and I'm not sure how it is in Canada still, if they're still pretty strict, but here in Arizona, the restrictions have pretty much been lifted, and
Okay.
everybody is wanting to go out to eat, go out to the restaurants. So right now, the challenge is we are so busy and we don't have enough staff
Uh,
because of the PPP money. A lot of people want to stay home and just have that money versus going to work. You'll see probably even in Canada too, for hire, looking to hire, need servers, need help, hiring. And I don't know what it is. Not a lot of people want to go back to work. And
hmm,
so we are so extremely busy, almost too busy, and we can't keep up.
wow.
You just can't keep up when there are hundreds of people wanting to go out to eat, and you don't have enough cooks, and you don't have enough people to serve or to bus the tables. So I would say overall in the restaurant industry, that's why you've seen so many restaurants shut down, because we cannot find, it's not that we don't have the business, we can't staff what we have.
Oh, that's very interesting. I didn't even
Mhm.
think of it like that. That is a very interesting thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because here is like our restrictions are still kind of iffy, but they definitely got lifted slower than
Yes.
you guys. Because I feel like your guys is like, okay, it's open.
Yeah.
Ours is
Well,
like,
and especially here in Arizona, California, you might have felt it a little bit, still a little restricted with the masks and inside
mhm.
and all that. I don't know, I haven't been there in a few months, but Arizona, we had a very less strict, I would say, on the mandates.
Mhm.
So we've been pretty much open a lot of the time.
Wow. That's pretty good, but also, yeah, there's lots of challenges with that. That's very interesting. So, when you were young, did you think I'm just going to stay in the restaurant industry, or did you go to university or college, or what did you do after you graduated?
Yeah, I went on to the University of Arizona. I got a degree in marketing and communications.
Oh,
And I actually, believe it or not, after graduating from university, I went and got my master's degree in education and became a teacher for a couple of years.
wow.
Um, and then I went into the family restaurant business, which was after that. And I worked at the restaurant full time for about 12 years in planning all their private parties, corporate events, banquets. And then, like I was saying, roughly about after that time in 2000, and is it 2010 or 2011 now, Origami Owl became.
Okay.
And I didn't realize that it was going to shoot like a rocket, just take off and be this unbelievably incredible opportunity of a lifetime. So there came a time where I wanted to take this business as an entrepreneur and ride with that wave. And here I
Mhm.
am today, still riding it, and so happy that I did, because the restaurant business, there's always a place for me at the restaurant. There's always a place that I can help or work out, work with them. But to be an entrepreneur and follow your dreams truly, to take it to the maximum level that you can, that opportunity doesn't always come,
Yes,
you know?
totally.
So,
And what made you pick marketing and communication right out of high school?
well, I really didn't know what I wanted to be. And
Mhm.
I talked to my daughter Tatum, she's struggling with that right now too. You know, when you graduate from high school and go into college, who knows what you want to be, unless you're laser focused, you want to be a doctor or a pediatrician or a dentist or, something laser focused. you do a degree that, it doesn't matter what you do. For example, my daughter Maddie, she graduated a couple of years ago with a business and marketing degree. But you know what? She went into the corporate world and did sales. And her heart, she always wanted to be an esthetician. She always wanted to go into something that had to do with skin and helping women look beautiful. And
Mhm.
she got her degree from the university, but she's not using it right now. She's an esthetician, has never been happier, so that's why I say, follow your dreams. If your parents want you to get that for your college degree, or if you feel like it's something that it's a goal for you, absolutely do it. But you can be super successful with whatever you want to do, and you don't need a college degree to do that. I'm
Mhm.
just here to tell you, you don't,
That's
unless you're specialized.
Yes, of course. And I think a lot of people right now are struggling with that, where they're like feeling the pressure. Like I know personally, when you graduate, it kind of feels like the next automatic step is to go into university over here or college.
Yep.
And it's kind of like this unspoken of like path that you're supposed to do. And it's super hard to break out of it because it takes a lot. Personally speaking from experience, I decided not to go back this year, and it took a lot of me to make that decision because it's not the right thing to do. And when I say the right thing to do, I mean it's not what everybody else does. And
That's
that's
right.
really difficult to go against the grain. But also today we have so many options. Like we have so many options and so many opportunities. So it's just like a whole different ball game. But it's very interesting that you bring that point up because it's a different perspective that I like to hear because it's about following your dreams and doing what you love at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And, I think COVID, as hard as it has been, as difficult as it has been for students and people your age, especially, I feel I put you in a category of my daughters where COVID hit you guys hard because you were either graduating high school, just in college, or just finishing college.
Mhm.
And, you know, it was very difficult to maintain and to manage your life during COVID, trying to school yourself or any of that.
Mhm.
But in another way, COVID helped, like just what you were saying. You decide there's so many other avenues. There's online, there's cosmetology school, there's a trade. Let me tell you something. If you have a trade that you can do, whether it be cut hair, esthetician, plumber, car mechanic, any of those things, you will work for the rest of your life. You don't need a college degree to do any of those things.
Mhm.
You don't need a college degree to do what you're doing right now, to be a podcast expert, to be an entrepreneur like me.
Yeah.
I do not need a degree to do what I'm doing right now. You
Mhm.
just need the drive and the motivation.
Yeah.
So I agree with you 1,000%. The options because of COVID have really expanded for
Mhm.
people to be able to do the things that they love.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And so my question for you is what was kind of like that thing that you wanted to do when you were younger? Did you have like a dream job or were you just really like up in the air the whole
I
time?
was so up in the air, Selena. I can't even tell you how up in the air I was. And I thought for a minute I wanted to be a teacher. I think just because I love teaching and training and helping others along the way. So there was a moment, but for me, that wasn't my path. That wasn't the journey I was supposed to be on. Um, and the restaurant business, it does allow you to be and meet and see so many people. So that was a great fit for me. But
Mhm.
I think my calling was to be where I am today, to help other women. I have it in my heart also to be a fundraiser. I'm big into charity work and helping other women. So I think this industry that I'm in, being your own boss, allows me to kind of navigate through my charitable giving and my fundraising, because if you're at a 9 to 5 job, there's really it's really very difficult to navigate that,
Mhm.
of giving back how you want to, or giving your time how you want to. So I think, I know I didn't have that any sort of straight path, but I think in my 30s and 40s, it kind of came together for me.
Mhm. And
And
that's when Origami Owl came into your life, right?
that's right.
So
Hmm.
can you tell me a little bit more about that journey? So what was it like before joining Origami Owl?
Well, it's so funny. I was beginning to tell you that Bella lived across the street from us. We were carpooling her, and
Yeah.
she was always an entrepreneurial spirit. She had it in her from the beginning. She was always doing some sort of a side hustle in the community, whether it be making bows or barrettes or necklaces or earrings.
Mhm.
She always had that entrepreneurial spirit. And so it was no surprise when they said they were going to start Origami Owl. And I will always feel so blessed. I don't know, why our paths were just in the right place at the right time. But
Mhm.
I feel like it was all meant to be because of the young entrepreneurial program that they had. My daughters were just of that age. Bella was that age. And so I think some things are just sort of meant to be in the right place at the right time.
Mhm.
Um, and through that, I saw the opportunity, and that's what is, I think, most important for people to understand, is that taking risks and understanding an opportunity when it's given to you, you should really think about that and not be afraid. Not long ago, Chrissy and Tyson and Bella and Sean had that big fear, word, and they stepped behind it and said everything that is amazing is on the other side of fear, which I totally believe, because it's
Mhm.
scary to be your own business person. I'm sure it was scary for you to
Yeah.
start a podcast. You knew nothing about it. You only knew that you loved people and that you want to talk to people and that you have this vision of what you want to do.
Yeah.
It was a risk. But look, now here you are. I don't know how many podcasts in you are, dozens and dozens.
Mhm.
You are so natural of speaking and, sharing your story. And that took risk.
Yeah.
And you can't get anywhere in life without taking risks.
Mhm.
So, my journey with Origami Out, I understood the opportunity. And I think when we can understand an opportunity that's put in front of us, then we also take the risk. I mean, sky is the limit. The world is our oyster when
Mhm.
we can understand opportunity.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. Like everything that I have started in the last couple of months have been so scary because you don't know how people are going to respond. You don't know what's going to happen, but you know there's those feelings inside of you that almost are like you have to do this. And I believe solely that you will grow your most outside of your comfort zone, and you got to get over that fear. Like it's hard. It is very hard, but when you do it, it can be so rewarding. So I definitely agree with you. And I have to say that I do believe that things happen to us for a reason, because for me, when Origami Owl came into my life, I was like, this is crazy. Like this was perfect timing. This just wasn't a coincidence. I was meant to walk into a market where I saw the jewelry for the first time. It was all meant to be. And so I definitely agree with that.
And I sort of feel with Origami Owl, that was part of your journey to get you to where you are right now, sitting
100%.
here.
Yeah.
You were on stage, you were a speaker, you
Mhm.
were doing trainings, you were the leader amongst your peers.
Mhm.
And, you know, that's the other thing, that had you not been in that path, maybe you wouldn't be sitting here today interviewing me on your own podcast.
Totally. Like the thing that Origami Owl did for me was open up my eyes to the world of possibilities. That's the best way to put it, because I remember standing on the stage speaking for the first time ever, telling my story. And at that moment, I was like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to speak to people. I want to inspire people. And I was like 16. It's crazy.
Yes.
And I know like I have a pretty solid sense of direction. At times I do feel like I have no idea what I'm doing, but I do have a sense that I am born to be an entrepreneur. I was born to help people. And it's funny because like you talked about being a teacher, and that was like one of the things I was looking into as well, because I wanted to help people. And I always say that Origami Owl was a perfect outlet and really, really helped install core values into me of being a force for good, to being the good, spreading the love. And so I'll definitely agree to that it has definitely helped me become who I am today.
For sure, for sure. And we're lucky. We
Yeah.
are lucky to have met you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. That means the world to me. And so your story, back to your story. So you joined Origami Owl. What happened?
Well, I signed up my first person, one of my really dear friends, Melissa Felder.
Mhm.
And you know, the old story of it just takes one. And Melissa Felder knew a gal named Beth Bleemaster who took this business for us and our team to a totally different level. She was that first person for me who took this and ran. You know, like you always want to find that other person who has the passion like you in your heart. Melissa Felder was that first person, and she had that passion and she showed it to Beth. And Beth took it and just shoo. She started doing with me. She started doing, because she was very familiar with YouTube and how that worked 10, 12 years ago.
Wow.
And
Mhm.
she was a prior news anchor. So she knew that video and YouTube were the way to go to grow this business. I
Mhm.
didn't know anything about that,
Yeah.
but she did. And so her and I would do these YouTube videos together. And through that, she signed up hundreds and hundreds of strangers
Wow.
because of the YouTube videos we were doing. And for me, I just kept on picking one person at a time who I knew would want the opportunity
Mhm.
and take it and run. And I had the fortunate, incredible Robin Torres on my team, who was founded by Yvette. You know, Yvette is still
Mhm.
with us. And so I think with a little bit of luck and a lot of hard work, you can really, that's what happened with me. It just kind of was a combination that exploded. And then, you know, those people meeting at my house, two people, then three became five, then five became 20. And then here, you know, a year later, I'm sitting with 5,000 people on my team
Wow.
and being thrown into the leadership role, which really, really, you know, made me think hard about where do I want to lead this team? What kind of leader do I want to be? Speed
Mhm.
of the leader, speed of the pack. So I had to step it up and become the leader that I knew people should want to follow. So,
Yeah.
and you know, I've kind of the 10 years, 11 years that I've been doing it, we really have pride ourselves on our team culture.
Mhm.
Um, you know, and you're part of that, Selena. You know, I think birds of a feather flock together. And
Mhm.
so when you're with like-minded, especially women, we're
Yes.
a very powerful force
Mhm.
and a force to be reckoned with. And when you find the team of women and young women, man, you know, there's just nothing that can stop you. And I feel like that's just what happened to me. I happened to be the first of this pack of women. And we just, from there on out, just did what we had to do to empower more women. So,
Mhm. That's awesome. And would you say there was some challenges along the way?
oh my God. Well, yes. And there's still challenges along the way. When
Yeah.
I say that women are a very powerful pack of people, I also say they can be some of the biggest beesies that you've ever imagined to work with.
Mhm.
Women, they can be mean and they can be hard and they can be difficult. And so, for as many amazing women that you do have on a team, you can have a couple bad seeds that are toxic, that are cancerous, that can
Mhm.
spread, you know, just not good things. And that can be very difficult and challenging. So that would be one challenge of this type of business. And another challenge is we are completely and solely relying on the technology of what we have. And so if our technology isn't working or if our manufacturing is shut down, I was with us during Mother's Day of 2012 when we had no lockets to sell because we couldn't get them over here, and that's difficult too. So when you're in the retail business online, you are at the mercy of a lot of those type of things. And
Mhm.
so we have a lot of challenges, but yet the good things have clearly outweighed those. And we try to just look for the good, because with everything, with all the challenges or with anything in life, if you always look at the bad, you're going to see all the bad. You have to find that silver lining, that old term, always find the silver lining and the rainbow and the pot of gold at the end. So
Absolutely. And I'm assuming you said you had kids at this point already. So when did you meet your husband and how did you meet him?
I met my husband when I was getting my master's at Grand Canyon after my university. I met him at Red Robin. Do you guys have Red Robins where you are?
No, we don't.
Red Robin is a cool burger place here. And he is a professional baseball player. And so during this time, the Major League Baseball was on strike. So that means they weren't playing. So he came over to Red Robin with a friend of mine that also was a baseball player. And I met him at Red Robin. I was bartending there and he came in and he said, hey. And we kind of just locked eyes and we fell in love. And then I said, well, what do you do for a living? And he told me he was on strike. And I said, oh, do you work for a grocery store or what's going on here? He said, no, I work for Major League Baseball. And then the strike resumed and he went back he was with the LA Angels at the time, the baseball team. And
Mhm.
he flew me out. And I'm like, wow, this guy really, like, he's kind of cool. He plays baseball. And we got married a year later.
Oh,
And
wow.
it was fast. Everything went fast. And we had babies right away. We had Maddie right away. Then we had Tatum. And then we
Mhm.
had Brooks. And the rest is history. And now Maddie's 25, Tatum's 20, and Brooks is 17. And here we are.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what would you say has been one of the pillars of your guys' relationship to keep it on for 25 years?
We were just talking about this the other day. Trust and loyalty and patience. Above all things, I know that Mike will always be there for me. He will always be my biggest advocate. He will always be there when I'm at my lowest of low, when I'm in my darkest of days. He is my light. And I am the same for him. And so, and also that loyalty of knowing that he'll always be there for me and that I will always be there for him.
Mhm.
Um, and the other thing that Mike and I have, we have a lot of fun together. We love to travel. We love to drink wine. We love to be with our friends. We love charitable work. We love to be outdoors and do all the things. So I think when you find person, that that person, you know, did we know each other very well when we got married? Probably not as good as we should have, but we have grown throughout. And has it been easy? No. Are there days that I think that he's the biggest Yahoo that ever walked the face of the earth? Of course. But at the end of the day, those things, loyalty, patience, trust, those
Mhm.
are big things. And we know that those pillars that are important to us will always be there. So the little things, the fights, the things that we don't agree on, we have to remember why we got married and why we're here for each other.
That's amazing. That's so good to hear. And if you had to give one piece of advice to people in relationships, what would that be?
Oh, just laugh a lot. You have to learn that, our love language is different. Mike and I's love language is totally different. And when I learned what his love language was, and when he learned what my love language was, we worked more on that, because
Mm,
I can do things for him all day long, but if that's not what fills his bucket, then I need to figure out what is going to fill his bucket. And, that's with any relationship. And you can find that out by simply just asking him or asking her. So, one piece of advice I would say is definitely find out what their love language is, because that's going to be most important.
I have to ask, what is yours?
Mine is words of affirmation.
Oh, same.
Really?
Yeah.
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 And that does not surprise me, Selena. I mean, I do love gifts, but words of affirmation and making me feel proud and making me feel important and recognizing hard work
Mhm.
is something very important to me. And I think, you and were both a part of Origami Al, thank goodness. And I believe for women, this business does that, a lot of that for us, doesn't it?
Mm. Yes.
Recognizes the things that you might not get at home. It recognizes the things that you might not get as a young woman or an older woman. Um, and that, to me, it fills my bucket to hear you're doing such a great job. You're
Yes.
such a great leader. Selena, you did such an amazing job on stage. Your words spoke to me. Those sort of things could make us, fill our bucket for months.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised about that.
Absolutely. I love the love languages. I didn't know about it till recently, but I think it's so, so important to know what your love language is. And I'm pretty sure you can like search it up and take the free test. So I'll put that in the comment below because you guys are going to want to do that. It's very fascinating to know what your love language is and and what fills your bucket, like Tami said. So it's very
Well, and
fascinating.
it's not just with love. It says love language, but that could be with friendships.
Yeah.
That could be with your parents, your family, your siblings. When you understand what fills somebody's bucket and the words that you use and all those things, it's so much easier to have a relationship with a friend too.
Hmm.
So it's not just in marriage or boyfriend, girlfriend, it's also with your friendships.
Absolutely. I agree. So powerful. Such powerful pieces of advices. I hope people are writing this down because everyone needs to know it. I have to ask, was there something that was very challenging for you, maybe one of your biggest obstacles throughout your life? And if there was one, how did you overcome it?
Hmm. I would say recently, and this is, maybe this isn't my entire life, but I would say recently,
Okay.
when I was going to donate my kidney to my cousin,
Mhm.
it was during COVID. It was during a time when the world was just crazy, right? It still
Mhm.
kind of is.
Yes.
And my family, including my husband, were very worried and I could see they were very scared for me to go and not only just be in the hospital, but have a major surgery, a transplant surgery during COVID when people are dying all the time. I had to do it alone. I couldn't have anybody with me. I had to go through the whole process by myself because it was during COVID.
Mhm.
And it really made me think that, what if something happened to me? What would my family do? Um, and it was just, I wouldn't have changed what I did, never, not for a million years. But it did make me think about whatever I'm doing in my life, it affects my family, especially your core family. And you'll learn that when you have your own core family, not my siblings, not my parents, but my husband, my children. And
Mhm.
so that's the thing that I can think of recently, is that I struggled with that because I knew they were afraid. And even though this is something that in my core, in my heart, I wanted to do because I wanted to save my cousin's life, I also knew that it was something that it was going to be a huge risk, that if something happened to me, my family was very scared, So
Mhm.
if that makes sense, I struggled and I battled with that quite a bit.
Mhm. And how did you overcome those feelings?
Well, it was a lot of conversations, especially with my husband, um, about and here's something interesting that I don't even know that a lot of people know. During when you're about to donate a kidney or a lung or anything, anytime you're going to go through a transplant where you're a living donor, they take you through a psychological evaluation several times. I met with 3 or 4 different psychologists to talk me through how to deal with that.
Wow.
How to deal with if Brad's body rejected my kidney. How would that make me feel that I just went through this entire life changing thing and it didn't work?
Yeah.
How would you deal with that? Um, are you sure that you want to donate one of your organs to your cousin? Are you sure you want to? These are the risks. That. So that's how I dealt with it, because they psychologically trained me and showed me all the things, all the possibilities. And
Mhm.
so at the end of the day, I had to make up my own mind. Am I strong enough? Am I capable mentally? I knew I was physically because I went through all the health 71 tests, by the way,
Whew.
of physical tests. But at the end of the day, I knew I wasn't turning back and that I was mentally strong enough to donate my kidney.
Mhm.
So that's what
They
helped me get through it.
they actually supported you in that.
Yes.
Wow,
Yep.
that's very fascinating. And
Yep.
what was some of the things that came up through when you were getting that support?
Well, like for example, they said at any time, Tammy, even if we are rolling you into surgery and you are even a minuscule afraid and change your mind, totally fine. Totally fine. Nobody's going to judge you. Nobody's going to care. We're going to take you out of your scrubs. We're going to turn you back and nobody will say anything. So they made it very clear that it was okay and that whatever my decision was okay. And I think when you're reassured, whatever you're doing in life, that your decision is okay,
Mhm.
then you can move on. You can move forward to whatever you want to get done or whatever you want to do. So
Mm,
that was,
totally.
mhm.
I think that's a huge block for some people too, even in that they just don't have that. I don't even know what you'd call it, but that reinsurance, I guess, of
Yes,
whatever you decide to do, it's your choice. It's
it's your
right.
choice. It's your
Yeah.
choice and it's okay.
Yeah.
So,
That's very fascinating. And it's actually very interesting to hear that they support you in that mindset as well as the physical. They check you, but they also help you through the mindset, which is so important. And I want to talk more about your transplant. So what else happened through this experience for you?
well, I mean, of course, bonded. I think it bonded our family, our big extended family, so much more. Not only Brad and I. I mean, Brad and I will always forever have this special connection
Mhm.
together. And so that's an amazing thing to know. But the other thing that the message that I wanted to get out there when I do talk about being a living donor is
Mhm.
that my one kidney is working just as well as my 2 kidneys were together. And that it's such a gift of life that I think more people than not are afraid to even consider it, just because they don't know, right?
Mhm.
They don't understand the process. They think, how is this going to affect me in my future? How is this going to affect my life? And am I going to live a normal life? Well, I'm here to tell you, I'm a perfect example of you just live your life as normal as possible after you donate. So
Mhm.
um, I think that's just kind of a message that I wanted to share, is that don't be afraid.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's very powerful and it's fascinating because you're right. There is a lack of education in that area where, I mean, even for just me, I'm like, oh, that's really interesting that you're perfectly fine. And I know sometimes it doesn't go that way, but majority of the time it does. And that it's okay to donate and help out if you can handle all the things, but it's very interesting. And so like you said, it was during COVID, and so that adds on like an extra layer of everything going on in the outside world. So
Yes.
how did you cope through all of that?
Well, that was, one of the things that was so hard, because
Mhm.
when we first started the process, we were going through everything together, and Mike, my husband, could sit and talk with me, and my bonus dad Ken, who had a liver transplant 5 years ago, he could sit with me and tell me how I'm going to feel and what the process is going to be. Well,
Mhm.
COVID made anybody who had any health issues go through it alone, and you heard the sad parts and the sad news about people dying alone and people in the hospital alone. And
Mhm.
that was true. I mean, I was at the Mayo Clinic and I had to be alone. And so I think that just added an extra element of maybe why donations were down, because people are afraid to do things alone. They really are. They're afraid, especially when it comes to doing things that have to do with their health. They want somebody to be with them to go through it. So that really hindered things. I think it put kind of a
Mhm.
darkness on it, that I had to do this by myself, you
Mhm.
know.
Absolutely. And now that you've gone through the surgery and you're done the surgery, how has it been now?
Well, now that Brad's better and now that Brad is thriving, everything is amazing. I was fine. It took a few weeks to get me back on my feet, just as
Mhm.
any major surgery would. But after that, I was fine. But Brad had a tougher time.
Okay.
And, they do prepare you for that, as I mentioned, psychologically, that, sometimes in these surgeries and in life, it just doesn't work out. And even though you gave him your kidney, his body might not like your kidney.
Mhm.
And so that was happening for quite a long time. And I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want people to ask me how Brad's doing. I didn't want to discuss it because it was a very sad thing for me.
Yeah.
Um, but now that he's thriving, it's so great. And, we just went to a photo shoot last week talking about, the National Kidney Foundation, and he's doing so great. So I'm
Mhm.
just so happy about everything now.
Yeah, that's so good to hear. And what was his conditions before? Why did he need one of need you one
No,
need one
he
of your kidneys?
Yeah, he has a very rare form of kidney disease,
Oh,
and so he had it. He knew about it when he was turned about 25, and they said it would kind of be in remission for a long time, and it did. It stayed in remission for a long time, but then just recently it came out again and quickly deteriorated to stage 5 kidney failure. And
wow.
when you're there, you either have to be on dialysis or you could die. And so
Mhm.
he definitely needed a transplant in order to live. And so, um, I'm so grateful that I was a match and that we had so many family members that offered to be a match, because sometimes that donor list, you're waiting 5 years. Who has 5 years? Not many people.
Yeah.
There's 110,000 people right now on a transplant donor list, and about 95,000 of those people are kidney kidney transplant. They need a kidney. So
That's crazy. And just you guys raising awareness is so awesome. So can you tell me a little bit about what that's been like for you guys?
yeah, well, next month in March, and I know that this will air after that, but that's okay. Last month, for you watching, is National Kidney Awareness Month. And so Brad and I have been asked to be sort of the ambassadors for the National Kidney Foundation. And
Mhm.
we're going to be going and speaking about it and speaking about resources that you can use if you have kidney disease, because 1 in 3 people suffer from kidney disease. So it's a very high statistic. COVID wreaks havoc on your kidneys. So a lot of people during COVID now have had tremendous struggles with their kidneys because
Mhm.
COVID attacks the kidneys. So we're just going to go around, raise awareness for the foundation, raise awareness for the resources that are out there, and just spread awareness also about being a living kidney donor.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear and see all about it on your social media. It's going to be so awesome that
Thank
you're
you.
going out and raising awareness. As I know, you mentioned that fundraising is very important to you. And I assume this is equally as important to just raise awareness about things that you've experienced and been through. So that's really awesome.
Yep.
Okay, so before we wrap things up, what is the happiest time in your life and why?
Ooh, the happiest time in my life was probably when I had all 3 of my children. There's no happier moment in your life. I'm sure that if you've interviewed any moms on this podcast, they'll probably say that. Um, and children change your lives. They change it for the better. They make you a better person. And so that was probably the happiest moments of my life. Getting married to my husband and donating my kidney. So those 3 things
Big,
were probably the happiest moments of my life, for
that's
sure.
awesome. And what's one of the biggest lessons you've learned from having kids?
Oh my gosh, the biggest lessons that you can't take everything so seriously. Your kids think you're an asshole some of the times, and that you just have to go with the flow and understand you were a kid once. And so I always try and look at things through my eyes when I was their age, and that helps tremendously. Trust me on that.
I can only imagine. That's awesome. All right. So before we end, is there anything else you would like to say before we go into the final 4 questions?
Oh, no, just that I'm so proud of you, Selena. I really am. You've
Thank
come so
you.
far, and you're just such a gem.
Thank you. That means so much to me. I really appreciate it. Thank you. All right. So, last 4 questions. These are my favorite questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. What is the best piece of advice you've received and from whom?
Oh my gosh. The best piece of advice: don't take life so seriously. Always laugh. That was from my grandma, my Mima, before she passed away.
And I have a question off of that. So what is something people can do to laugh and be a little bit more carefree and happy? Like, what have you done? Because I watch you on social media and I'm like, this girl knows how to have fun. She knows how to have a good time.
Well, let me tell you something. I learned a long time ago that if you can't laugh at yourself and be authentically you, then I just feel like you should always be authentically you. And if people like you, great. If they dislike you, great. It's not for, I'm not for everybody, but if
Mhm.
I'm authentically me, I know I will find more people that are my people.
Right. Oh, that's so awesome. I love that. Okay, next question. What is the worst piece of advice you've received?
Oh my God. Worst piece of advice. Huh. I can't.
It's a difficult one.
Yes, it is. Worst piece of advice. Probably just not being authentically you, being not who you are, just
Mhm.
and or somebody telling you that you can't do something that you know that you can. Um, I don't like that at all. When people, say, "Oh, you shouldn't do that," because that's just not good advice. You should always do what feels good to you in your heart and in your gut.
Love that. Love that. Okay, next one. This is my absolute favorite question. What piece of advice would you give your younger self or someone in the younger generation?
Oh, for sure. Just like you and I were talking, Selena, don't focus so much on what is coming. Don't focus so much on your future and stress you out, because trust me, you're going to do so many things that are going to show you what you don't want to do. You're
Mhm.
going to do so many jobs that are going to show you what you don't want to do as a job. You're going to do so many things in life that will show you what you don't want to do. So don't pass those Don't pass those opportunities by, and do a lot of different things, because then you'll dwindle it down to the one or two things that you are so passionate about.
Mhm.
So don't be afraid to do it all. And then somehow it always comes right back here to what you have to do and what you love to do.
Awesome. I love that. Okay, last question. We end every interview in a state of gratitude. And so, what are you grateful for?
Oh, I'm just grateful to live here, in freedom, especially what's going on with Ukraine right now. It really brings things back into perspective of how
Mhm.
fortunate we are, how blessed we are, that I have a roof over my head, that I have a job, that I have shoes on my feet. It's just the little things in life that we cannot take for granted. And that we have the opportunity to do whatever we want to do with life, especially as women. We have the opportunity. The ceiling is as high as we want it now. You know, no longer are the days where you can't become president. There's so much opportunity for us, especially as women. And I just love that. I love that so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm going to add Tammy's information below. So if you want to follow her on Instagram or Facebook, and I'm sure there's a couple other places that I'll add where you can find more about Tami. I just wanted to thank you again so much for coming on and sharing your story and really shining the light on the good that happens in the world. Although there's bad things and tough things that happen, there is so much good, and you definitely shine the light on that. So thank you so much.
Aw, thanks, Selena.